Yikes! Harry's fake royal tour in Australia has been a catastrophe. It is a new low for the prince as fresh cracks appear in his marriage. More on that shortly. Shocking stuff. As he insults his father, the king, as he fails to achieve a sellout crowd for his boring speech about mental health, which was very bad for the mental health of those listening. And according to one of Australia's leading journalists, Harry was completely ignored by the Australian public. They couldn't care less about Harry. They barely noticed. At one point, Harry was with a big film crew, massive ego trip as usual, and he's on the beach in Australia, and there was one person that wouldn't even get out of the way or off their beach towel as Harry passed by. How the mighty have fallen. So I spoke to the fearless Australian reporter Alexandra Marshall at The Spectator magazine, brilliant journalist. She's told me in an exclusive interview on my Talk TV show that both Harry and Meghan were invisible on this trip. Their arrival failed to achieve a ripple among the Australian public. They didn't get the headlines they were hoping for, they didn't get the photo opportunities, and they didn't get the amount of cash that they were hoping to make either. For this horrible fake royal tour in which Harry cynically paraded around Australia with his grifter wife, pretending to be a frontline royal. It's all backfired spectacularly. The trip has been a hot mess and it has set Harry back mega. I'll give you the details in just a moment. Now, my interview with Alexandra Marshall will shock you. It is coming up unedited and unfiltered. But first, where does Harry go from here? Where does he go from here? This was the last roll of the dice. As the brilliant journalist Richard Fitzwilliams told me on my Talk TV show, this was a dress rehearsal for Harry and Meghan coming to the United Kingdom. Good luck with that, because Charles would have seen the headlines and the embarrassing behaviour and the money-obsessed activities. William will have seen the behaviour, the bad headlines, the money-obsessed activities, and neither will want anything to do with this couple. So let's take you through everything that happened. On this trip, he attacked his father. He said he hoped his parenting skills are an upgrade on the job his father, Charles, did. Now, let's not forget that this is a man in his late 70s who's battling cancer, and he's the king of the United Kingdom. You could afford him a little bit of respect. He's the king. Clues in the title. You kind of respect the king. He's an older man and he's got a serious disease. He's actually not that well. And he gets this from his son down under in Australia. I hope my parenting skills were an upgrade on Pa, who frankly, folks, was a bit rubbish, yeah? Absolutely shocking. Then there was the row with an Australian journalist who was simply looking for a selfie, a flash of rage in Harry's eyes. All of that is detailed in the last show. You need to see it if you haven't caught up with that. My goodness, what a story that is. And the press have been boiling with rage about this trip. They're not happy. They are consumed with contempt for Harry and Meghan. The Sydney Morning Herald said Australia was good to Harry and Meghan in 2018. Now they want to use us as an ATM. They want to use us literally as a cash machine. Then there was the public anger about extra security, which is going to be paid for by the good people of Australia. Can I say that there are so many viewers in Australia to the Mark Dolan Show? Australia and New Zealand, we're massive down under. Careful family show. And I'd like to personally and formally apologise to the Australian people for having to put up with these shallow grifters for 4 days. I'm really worried about what it's done to Australia. I suspect that the house prices have come crashing down. I would imagine that the wildlife have been quite upset. I would have thought the kangaroos have stopped hopping. That's how angry they are. I would have thought the koalas are no longer climbing the trees. One of you in the comments said something hilarious. You said you're waiting for Harry and Meghan to get the koala bite. Now, I don't wish damage or injury on either of them, but if one of those koalas had had a nibble on Meghan, it would have been quite amusing. So the whole thing's been horrible. They went to a children's hospital meeting sick kids. And then they met victims of the Bondi Beach attack, which was the most horrific thing and one of the saddest days in Australian history, right? Absolutely tragic. What are they doing at a children's hospital? What are they doing hanging out with the victims of the most awful attack? Why are they there doing that? because that was the fake royal dimension of the trip. They had to go to the children's hospital. Harry had to go to a war memorial with the wreath. And they kind of, oh yeah, I was in a military man, you know. I used to play helicopter, yeah. Of course they did. They had to go to the children's hospital. They had to go to the military thing. They had to go to a professional sport game. And of course, they had to meet the victims of an atrocity. What a pair of grifters. In fact, I've got another G word for you. Let me know if this is too strong. I think they're a pair of ghouls. Do you know what a ghoul is? A ghoul. It's kind of like a creepy ghost that goes around, essentially visiting upon tragedy. I think it's so inappropriate. I'm the host of the Mark Dolan Show. Kind of a big deal these days, thanks to you. And I'm going to the United States very soon. And we're doing a tour with cameraman John. I'm so excited about. So excited about this. Cameraman John will be back every day across America. Lots of videos. But am I going to go and meet sick children or the victims of some atrocity in the United States? Wouldn't that be weird? I'm a broadcaster, an entertainer, a journalist, and a celebrity, right? Am I going to hang out with children that aren't well? I mean, how strange is that? What a strange mentality. What a pair of ghouls they are. And Bondi Beach, I mean, it's one thing for them to go to Australia and they go to glitzy events and they're on the red carpet and it's premieres and they go to the big shopping place and they buy some fancy clothes. Fine, be a celebrity. I'm a very big fan of Sir Elton John, and when he travels, when he's on holiday, he goes to the south of France and he's wearing expensive clothes and he has these posh lunches and he's Elton John. Can you feel the love tonight? And it's perfect how he does it. That he works hard and he enjoys his money and he has a great time. When he's in America, if he's in LA, he hits Rodeo Drive, which is famous for some very posh upmarket stores, and he knocks himself out, spends some of those dollars. But so I've got no problem with Harry and Meghan traveling to Australia as sort of celebrity citizens. No problem with that. But the minute you go to a children's hospital or you meet victims of an atrocity like Bondi Beach, which is just, I was actually on air here in the UK when it happened, and I've got friends in Australia, and I'm honoured to be a regular voice on Sky News Australia. So it was just an unimaginable day of grief and sadness and horror. And they wish to intrude on that. I think it's so wrong. But why have they done it? Why Bondi Beach? Why the children's hospital with these little cute kids who are trying to get better? And they're in the cancer ward of a children's hospital. It is so strange. It is so creepy. They're a pair of ghouls. The war memorial, the sport event, the reason why they do all of those things is because that is a royal style thing to do. That is the imaging. That is the iconography of a royal trip. You go to a hospital, you meet some victim of this, that, or the other, and it's the sort of thing that King Charles would do. It's the sort of thing that Camilla would do, the King and Queen. And that would be appropriate. And if the King goes to Bondi Beach, then that means a lot because he's the head of state of Australia. And he can meet the people involved in that horror show, that tragedy. And he can go to the children's hospital because he's the head of state of Australia, but not these two. So I've got no problem with them being celebrities, but that is not what they are, and it's not what they want to be. The reason why, folks, is because they do not have enough about them to be celebrities. Without the Duke and Duchess of this and that, without the royal connections, without the fake royal tour, there's nothing there. They have no pull without their connections to an institution that they detest, that they left, and that they endlessly attack. That's why I'm always so furious with the pair of them. Also, Australians were shocked at how indulgent and self-absorbed Harry was. Me. I mean, he talked about his mental health. He was supposed to be helping other people with his mental health. But it's like, oh, it's terrible being royal, man. Growing up in palaces all the time, yeah, and having loads of butlers and everything, eating caviar in the morning. And it's just like, they put flower petals in front of you when you walk along and they iron the newspaper and you never wear an old pair of socks, yeah. I heard, by the way, David Beckham, are you familiar with him? Famous ex-footballer and now global ambassador. Apparently he never wears a used pair of socks. So when he wears socks, they're always new. So every morning he wakes up and he puts on new socks. What do you think about that? I've got mixed feelings. I've got two sons. For their privacy, I call them Elton and Bernie. Can you feel? And the reason why I do that is because, unlike Harry and Meghan, I seek to protect their privacy. And my youngest, he will never, you can give him new socks. He has to wash them. He will not wear new socks without them going in the machine first. And he thinks that it's just not right to wear brand new clothes. They should be washed first. I agree. What do you think? Is it good or bad to wear brand new clothes? He thinks they need a wash. He thinks they've been in a dusty department store. He also thinks that maybe there are chemicals in there that have preserved them. I know that some knitwear is treated with anti-moth stuff. Folks, we don't have time for this, but do you wear new clothes? Anyway, I don't know how we got onto that, but new socks. Harry has probably never bought he's never worn old socks. I would have thought that his socks are always new. They come straight out the packet every day. And by the way, in a moment, cracks appearing in the marriage, a pretty wild story, and my amazing unfiltered interview with the fearless Alexandra Marshall, who you're going to love. We've unearthed the rock star. But first, speaking at the InterEdge Summit in Melbourne Park, where tickets were around $1,000 each. And by the way, they did not sell out. It was a small crowd and it wasn't a sellout because no one's interested in getting health advice, particularly mental health, from Harry. It cost him $1,000 each. Harry said there had been points in his life where he'd felt lost, betrayed, or completely powerless. Now, do you think, given the fact that the world is at war, the planet is currently a smoking ruin, do you think anyone is concerned about Harry's rather deprived life of growing up in palaces surrounded by priceless paintings with 24/7 butlers and chefs and security, the finest food, the finest clothing, the finest locations, free travel, free healthcare, free dentistry? Do you think Harry has to wait to see the dentist? If he wants to see the dentist, it's like 3 seconds. He's like, oh, hello, I've got a sore molar, yeah? Within 3 seconds, a little dentist just appears from under the table. So the Duke suggested that for years he'd buried his feelings until he stepped away from royal life and moved to America with Meghan, implying this was also what Princess Diana would have wanted for him. There he goes, folks. Another ghoulish activity, exhuming the ghost of poor old Diana. How dare he? And how do you think it makes William feel when Harry is using Diana for clicks, to boost his image, to boost his reputation, and ultimately for dollars? How do you think it makes William feel? I would imagine William is disgusted by that. But there he is on stage on his money-grabbing trip in which he didn't make enough money, on his headline-making trip in which he didn't make enough headlines, on his efforts to win over Australia, who shrugged their shoulders and ignored the couple. He said the following. He said, after my mum died, just before my 13th birthday, I was like, I don't want this job. I don't want this role wherever this is headed. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it, man. Well, it's funny that, isn't it? Because you can be 13 years of age, 12 and a half, 13, and you're a young prince, and you can take the view that you don't like it. You're entitled to do that. It's a free country. Absolutely entitled not to like the job. Why, therefore, now that you've left the royal family, are you still calling yourself the Duke of Sussex? Why, therefore, do you allow your wife to use monogrammed imagery which implies her royal status? Why, therefore, do you talk non-stop about the institution and about the royals? If you detested the institution so much, give up the Duke of Sussex title and don't talk about the monarchy anymore. You move on. It's a little bit like, you know, when you break up with your partner. Breaking up is hard to do. Don't take your love away from me. When you break up with someone, the trick is that you don't think about them anymore. You don't talk about them. You move on. So if he didn't want that job and he gets to the age he is at now in his early 40s, he doesn't have that job. So why is he still the Duke? Why does he talk about the family so much? Why does he talk about the monarchy so much? Well, you know as well as I do, because he doesn't want to let go and he needs it, because without that royal currency, the guy has nothing of value. So he says, being a royal killed my mum, yeah? And I was very much against being a royal, a serving royal. And I stuck my head in the sand for years and years and years. Now, a couple of points of order. First of all, glibly talking about your mother's death. Killed my mum, yeah. Cool. Have you noticed how casual Harry is in a lot of his language? He's the same about his father. Do you remember after he lost his court case against the British government for royal security protection? He did an interview with the BBC that they weren't expecting. The BBC thought they might get 3 minutes with the Prince. He gave them a half an hour of moaning. And when he was doing that interview with the BBC, he said, my dad's not well. I don't know how long he's got. Now, to say, I don't know how long he's got is very insensitive language. You wouldn't say that about a dying loved one, would you? I don't know how long they've got. And it demonstrates to me a lack of empathy, and it demonstrates an emotional blind spot. And it comes back to what I've said before about Harry, about the H-bomb. My husband! Which is, I think he's got a blind spot. I think he's cold. I think he's not a very nice person. Let me know in the comments. I don't think he's a very nice guy. Cold heart done by you. Honestly, I really think that. He goes, it killed my mum. I mean, being a royal killed my mum, yeah? So, strangely casual language about your mother. It killed. No, I mean, if it was my mother, may God forbid, but, you would say, being a royal led to the tragic death of my mother, from which I've never recovered. Not killed my mum, yeah, couldn't have just killed her, man, yeah, wiped her out, yeah, snuffed her out, man, yeah, she was a goner, yeah, she was totally like my mum, not any mum anymore, not any mum anymore. I'm actually quite shocked about that. And I'm the only journalist on the planet that notices these things, which is why I know you tune into the show. That's why you tune in, because you get the insights. I was the only journalist in the world to point out when Princess Catherine was diagnosed with cancer all those years ago, Harry and Meghan, after hours, finally sent a statement with well wishes, get well soon. And it was quite a long statement. It did not have the word love in it once. There was no with love or sending our love. It didn't have the word love in it. And I said that to the BBC Royal correspondent, Jenny from Jenny Bond. She's still Jenny from the block. And Jenny gave me dog's abuse. She went, oh, for God's sakes, please don't go there. I'm like, well, I'm so sorry, I will go there because I am Mark Dolan. This is my show. That was my show then as well. It's always my show. It's the golden rule. The Mark Dolan rule, right? It's always my show. That's quite a good tagline, isn't it? Welcome to the Mark Dolan Show. It's always my show. But it was my show then, it's my show now. And I can't lie, it's our show, by the way. What is this show without you? And by the way, are we growing or what? We are doing such great work. Love the comments. I cannot tell you, it makes my day. And I love it when we agree. I love it when we don't agree. I love the constructive feedback. It's all just fantastic. Thank you. And I love you loads. So let's carry on. But I'm the only journalist that's noticed that casual language when he said, I don't know how long my father's got. No one picked up on how casual that was, how unempathetic, how heartless it was, how sociopathic it was. There's a coldness there. And then with his mother, it killed my mum. A couple of points of order as well. It didn't kill his mother. Being a member of the royal family did not kill Diana. In fact, let me correct you on that, because if she had remained a member of the royal family, she'd still be with us. Not just my view, the view of Ken Worth, who is Diana's former bodyguard, who's on the record as saying that. Because Diana tragically passed in a Paris tunnel. She was driven at high speed in a company Mercedes-Benz by a drunk security guard / bouncer who was employed by the notorious crook Mohammed Al-Fayed, who's no longer with us and whose horrific crimes towards women are too unspeakable on a family show. So it had nothing to do with the royal role. If she'd been the Princess of Wales and had still remained Charles's wife, she's as safe as houses and she's with us now. And what a magnificent woman she would be. She would be so beautiful, wouldn't she? She'd be what, in her mid-60s now? Shall I find out? Let's find out, come on. She would be 64 today and she would turn 65, I understand, on the 1st of July 2026. Wouldn't it be just so wonderful to have her? But she'd still be here if she was royal. It was not the job that killed her. He also said, what would my mum want me to do? And that really changed my own perspective. Well, I know what she would want Harry to do. She would want Harry to not attack the royal family, because Diana had a great amount of respect for the Queen and for Philip. And she would want Harry to not attack and wage war on his brother William. And she would also not want Harry to refer to him in his traitorous book Spare as Willie, which is an obnoxious nickname and disrespectful to the next king. And she would not want Harry writing things like, "Oh, you know, I was surprised by how bald my brother's become, yeah." First of all, that's a little bit rich coming from you, Harry. You've not exactly got a full head of hair. And similarly, she wouldn't have liked him saying, "You know, I was so surprised that my brother Willie, he doesn't really look like our mother anymore." Diana would find that very strange, that he says that about his brother, that he doesn't look like their mother. What is that supposed to mean? During the same discussion, Harry praised Australia's policy restricting social media access for under 16s, calling it epic. Well, of course he found it epic because he loves censorship. See, I wouldn't deprive young people of having access to the internet and to social media. I would have the parents control it. And I would say to little Johnny, you can have your phone for 20 minutes today, and I'm going to make sure that you're using educational materials. Because things like ChatGPT and educational TikTok, it's not a problem. Elton and Bernie, my boys, they spend a lot of time on YouTube, and it's a veritable goldmine of information. It just depends what you're looking at on there. But Harry is so censorious, which is why he's suing the Daily Mail. He later expanded on his own struggles at the Interedge Summit in Melbourne, where he was speaking at, wait for it, leadership, psychosocial safety and human connection in the workplace, whatever that means. That's a word salad that comes straight from Meghan. Oh, Harry, let's write it like this. Leadership, psychosocial safety and human connection in the workplace. It means nothing, so it's perfect. Harry told those gathered at the Centrepiece conference venue that there was a lot in the world right now leaving us feeling anxious, stressed, helpless, powerless and completely overwhelmed. What are you talking about? Did you know the world is a far safer place than it ever was? 2,000 years ago, people were killing each other with spears. Don't worry about it, Harry. We're not too bad. There is war. There always has been. We've never been safer. We've got the World Wide Web. We've got technology. We've got cures to disease. We're doing okay. Thank you, big guy. We've got this. Harry continued, there have been many times when I've felt overwhelmed. Overwhelmed by what? Overwhelmed by Parises? Overwhelmed by caviar in the morning? By rose petals? By ironed newspapers? By brand new socks every day, just like David Beckham? Then he said it's really good to ask for help. Well, it is good to ask for help. And I've got viewers that struggle mentally. And I just want to send you a big kiss, because I get messages from folks who see it in the comments. There are some people who have very hard lives and they've got mental health issues, physical issues. And you know, if you're struggling, obviously, if you've got a medical condition, try and get medical help, but also psychologically, talk to someone. Help is always there. What is it? A problem? Is it a problem shared? Is it a problem halved? Something like that. But if anything, Harry has had too much therapy now. Nobody gets too much heaven no more. It's much harder to come by. I'm waiting in line. A profile of Harry on the Summit website said he's dedicated his life to service and uplifting communities, whilst emphasising the importance of collective mental health in his philanthropic and advocacy work globally. Stop telling everyone you're a philanthropist. The key to being a philanthropist is that you don't tell anyone, you just do the philanthroping, which is now a word. It's like a comedian doesn't go around saying, I'm funny. Hello, everyone, I'm funny. A comedian just is funny. A farmer just farms. A writer just writes. A philanthropist just philampers. Stop telling everyone you're a good person, because if you keep telling us you're a good person, we will draw the conclusion that maybe you're not such a good person, because always run for the hills when someone tells you they're a good person, because normally they're not. The good people are the ones who you discover to be good. It wasn't on their business card. The Duke also discussed differences in mental health support between regions and cities, telling the young people, I'm not a city person, yeah. My mental health could not stand living in a city. No way. Well, Harry, you're a hop, skip and a jump away from Los Angeles, California, which is one of the biggest metropolises in the world. Although it is true that he doesn't like big cities and he wanted to be in South Africa. And as Charlotte Griffiths from the Mail on Sunday told me on my Talk TV show, She pretended to look at houses in South Africa when Megxit was happening to convince him that, yeah, she agreed they should be in the wilderness somewhere on a farm. And of course, it never happened. Fans were shocked at Prince Harry. Now, this is the big story. You will not believe this, okay? Fans were shocked at Prince Harry over what was described as his unusual departure from one of Meghan's events in Australia. And Australia, Rupert Murdoch. I like Meghan Markle. She has a robust immune system. I've got a theory, folks, that I think that when Meghan and Harry divorce, which they will, she'll be looking for a billionaire. She'd be quite happy with someone like Warren Buffett. She's going to go for an old rich man. Warren Buffett's one of the richest men in the world. I love Warren Buffett. I'm just into old men. I don't know why, but there's something about wrinkly, very old men at the end of their lives who are billionaires that's attractive to me. I love wrinkly, end-of-life old men. I don't know why. There's something about the end-of-life wrinkly man that really does it for me. I love the life enders. The end-of-life wrinkly man. Wrinkly, wrinkly, end-of-life, wrinkle, wrinkle. Wrinkle, wrinkle, little star. How I wonder when you're going to die. So I get your money. You're welcome, my husband. No, I love Warren Buffett. In fact, every night. When I marry Warren, who's a billionaire, he's a wrinkly man towards the end of his life. When I'm with Warren in the evening, I'm going to actually buff the Buffett. I love Warren Buffett, and I will buff the Buffett. I will buff the Buffett. The Buffett will be buffed. It'll be Buffy. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buff the Buffett. Warren. I like wrinkly, old, end-of-life men. Just does it for me. I don't know why. I'll be quite honest with you about that. It's an attractive look. It works for me. She will. She'll be going for some poor old guy like Warren Buffett. Or she might go for Elon. Meghan Markle. Yeah, she's attractive. She's attractive. I'm a strange guy. I never sleep. I make Teslas and rockets. But I think Meghan will be quite good. Quite like her. She's not woke, is she? And then the ultimate prize would be someone like Rupert Murdoch, because he's a genius, of course, the greatest media entrepreneur of all history, a great Australian as well. And I think he'd go for it. He'd have to get divorced, but he's used to that. He's got his divorce lawyer on speed dial. My name's Rupert Murdoch, and I've invested in a lot of great businesses in my life, including Sky News Australia, Fox News, the Sun newspaper, the Times, and a variety of Australian, New Zealand newspaper titles and brands. I've made a lot of investments. And I believe the best investment I could go for would be Meghan Markle. Marry Meghan Markle, put a ring on her finger, you know. I'll give her a lot of Australian dollars, millions of Australian dollars. I'll make her a star. She'll be headline news in my newspapers and on my TV networks. And I'll even put her in my movies, even though she's not a great actress. I'll be honest with you about that. I will say that. Her father, Thomas Markle Sr., spent a lot of money on acting classes when she was young. All I've got to say there is, where's the refund? Mr. Markle, where's the refund? That was a bad business deal. That you were throwing good money after bad with Meghan Markle's acting classes. Ask for your money back. Right, folks, we've got to crack on. I've got this amazing interview. But this is huge, right? She'll go for someone like Rupert Murdoch, because he's an older gentleman with a load of money. She will be, I'm not even joking, this bit is true, she'll be looking for a billionaire. So she took part in a 90-minute speaking appearance at Sydney's Intercontinental Hotel. Very cheap hotel for Meghan, okay? Close to Coogee Beach. And guests were paying like up to $2,500. They didn't sell out. It was the whole thing was a complete disaster. She said, I've spent all my life investing in women. Can I finally invest in me? I mean, how narcissistic is this woman? Before being admitted to the event, guests faced heavy security. No one cares. 150 guests turned up, which, by the way, was a fraction of the tickets they were hoping to sell. They were given freebies, including Meghan's As Ever lifestyle range, all of which will have been out of date and therefore probably toxic, including flour sprinkles, sugar-free sweets, which the Americans call candies, and a branded bookmark. I mean, be still my aching heart. So this is the bottom line, right? Harry briefly joined this event, sitting to one side of Marcus Anderson, who's part of the very, very posh luxury private members club Soho House. Marcus Anderson, by the way, interestingly known as Meghan's second husband. Interesting. Harry joined the event very briefly, but it was the manner of his exit that caught people's attention. One attendee told the Times newspaper it was the most unusual thing. People were taking pictures of Meghan on the stage, and Harry sort of rushed out really quickly. He didn't wait for her to come off the stage, didn't collect her from the stage. It was really, really odd. The same guest added, I sat there and everyone kept on going on about how handsome Harry was. Okay, how wonderful he was. But he just ran out. It was quite bizarre. Harry's abrupt departure, said reporters, jarred with the adoring spotlight placed on Meghan for much of the evening. Well, we know what's going on here, folks. The marriage is on the rocks. Meghan is, of course, the great pretender. I am the great pretender. Ooh. That's the bottom line. Meghan can fake it till she makes it. Harry's not an actor. And he goes to watch Meghan and he sits there thinking, what is this BS? What is this word salad? I promise you, Harry is on his way out the door. He's not happy. And so there you go, whether it's jet lag or he was drunk or what, but he said the true bit out loud. He can't sit there and listen to her rubbish. He can't look at her adoringly. He's had enough of playing second fiddle. He's had enough of being the spare in his own marriage. He doesn't want to be the help, the bag carrier, the number two, quite literally, if you like. He's had enough of it. He's had enough of going on that terrible TV show at the end of the episode going, oh, Meghan, you're amazing. And I've just come to pay my respects and kiss the metaphorical ring like you're Don bloody Corleone, yeah? Harry's had enough. The cracks are appearing, folks. If your partner, if your wife or your husband is on a big stage speaking and you're in the audience, you don't get out halfway through, do you? God, Harry's not busy. He hasn't got a job. There are no other engagements. He's bored everyone to tears about mental health. He's got time on his hands. He can sit there and listen to his wife, but he can't bring himself to because he's not happy and the marriage is crumbling. And it's fascinating that the Times have reported that story. And, you know, those two, it is the path to divorce. The Mark Dolan Show, the first show in the world to place Harry and Meghan on 24/7 divorce watch, and quite rightly so. Now, folks, it is time for my exclusive Talk TV interview with the brilliant Alexandra Marshall from the Spectator Australia. I promise you, you're going to love it. Don't go anywhere. Enjoy. Was Harry and Meghan's trip to Australia a triumph or a disaster? Who better to ask than a very old friend of mine, the brilliant online editor at the Spectator Australia, Alexandra Marshall, who is live down under. Hi, Alexandra.
Go easy with the old there, Mark.
Most definitely. Well, listen, you're very well preserved, unlike me. I mean, I'm showing a bit of metal fatigue. But let's talk about Harry and Meghan and their brand. First of all, Alexandra, why did they go to Australia?
No one has the faintest idea, and worse than that, Mark, most Australians had no idea they were even here. There was a great quote in the Sydney Morning Herald that I wrote down for us. It said, Australia was good to Harry and Meghan, now they want to use us as an ATM. Now the problem is, Australia is almost $1 trillion in debt, so good luck with that. And the gold rush was in the 1850s. So Harry and Meghan are a little bit late for that one. But genuinely, Mark, no one knew they were here. I had to actually go and Google what they are up to. They were apparently across the road from me in Sydney this morning, and you wouldn't even know it.
So they failed to make the headlines they hoped they would make.
They weren't even really front page of the Daily Mail until a few minutes ago when apparently an aide got given a bit of a side glare from Meghan. But apart from that, they're not even in the news cycle. That's how dire this trip has been. Whatever the star quality is that Harry and Meghan originally had, it was definitely tied to the love Australians have of the monarchy. And I think there was a YouGov poll that came out today that showed that Queen Elizabeth is still the most popular royal. And she's no longer with us. The second most popular is Diana, who is also not with us. Right down the bottom, second last is Meghan, and third last is Harry.
Well, that's not a great look, is it? So the Australian public have not taken any notice, but given that you are an elite level journalist, you've been across the story. What did you make of their activities? Because it was presented as a predominantly humanitarian visit where they were going to go and hang out in a children's hospital, meet kids battling cancer. There were the philanthropic activities. That's what they wanted to present the trip as. But what did you make of the messaging underneath all of it?
Well, aside from a very strangely named event where Harry was giving advice on the psycho safety and human connection at the workplace, which is a pretty strange title, mostly they were talking about our under 16 social media ban, which has been a total non-event slash disaster in Australia. I know the UK wants to copy it, but basically everyone's saying it is political. It was an election pitch from the Labor government that they stole from our Liberals. And so Harry and Meghan spent a lot of time. You might have seen the headline. Meghan said she's the most trolled person in the last 10 years or something. That was all about this political piece of legislation that's protecting children, but actually cutting young people out of the political conversation. Because as we all know, Mark, the youth of the conservative movement finds conservatism online, and our Labor Party is not very happy about that. So they received a warm welcome from the Victorian Premier, and I'm pretty sure it was to do with this whole little project for the banning social media.
Well, yes, because we know that Harry and Meghan are very censorious people. Let's not forget that Harry spends every 10 minutes legally battling newspapers like the Daily Mail, and they don't want the accountability from the press or on social media about their own hypocrisy and double standards either.
Well, not only that, they don't like criticism. So they have that in common with our Labor Party, where criticism online is a bit of a no-no. But I will tell you one thing. She did, well, not she, both of them went down to Bondi Beach to meet the victims of the Bondi terror attack we had here. And one person didn't move out of the way. There's a great clip of, I think you're going to play it now, of a woman lying sunbathing in the sand, and she sort of doesn't even know they're there. That's a great image for how Australia has received the royals. I've noticed there's more interest in the US tour with the King going over to the anniversary of the US there than there has been at the Meghan tour.
Oh, it's pretty devastating, isn't it? So, I mean, I don't know what you think, but I would suggest that going to a children's hospital and meeting young patients with cancer, or meeting those who are victims of, indirectly or directly, the Bondi Beach terror attack, it strikes me as creepy, inappropriate, and characterises Harry and Meghan as a pair of ghouls.
Well, I'm not sure I'd go that far. It's more just that's something that popular people do when they come to Australia. We're used to the press tours, we're used to the children hospital visits and things like that. It's more the press has covered the use of merchandising. So there are some shots of them up toward the some of our landmarks, and she's wearing certain clothes, which people are talking about might be a bit of a branding exercise. It's more to do with the commercialization of the monarchy that upsets Australians, because we are still quite tied to our monarchy. We chose to keep the monarchy. We were asked, we kept it. And we've just dismissed our last person who was trying to bring apart another referendum on it. But we don't like the monarchy being cheapened by commercial activity. So more than anything, that has been the real coverage over here about this tour.
Meanwhile, Harry attacks his father subtly by saying that actually every generation is an upgrade in terms of quality of parenting. I mean, he had lots of caveats and if, buts and maybes. The message was clear. My dad didn't do a great job.
That was a bizarre interview. I think it happened on the plane on the way over and then was reported. Everyone remembers when the young children were brought to Australia many decades ago, and it just seems to be a bit mean-spirited, what's coming out from the pair of them. I don't know if they're just particularly bad at how they talk about their family, or if it's just because, I don't know, all the books that came out and all the press, no one has any good faith left for Prince Harry and Meghan. So yeah, his comments about his father, no one's particularly fond of Charles over here, but it just fell flat. The whole coverage has been a PR disaster, really.
Oh my goodness, a PR disaster. That is damning, isn't it? What's your appraisal of the state of their marriage? Do you think that they're still deeply in love, Alexandra?
Well, look, we obviously can't comment on the details of their marriage, but let's just say that a lot of people have bets running with bottles of beer and bottles of wine about whether or not those two children and Prince Harry might escape back to the UK at some later date and rejoin the monarchy. Because, of course, all of the life of privilege that Harry's been used to and all of his fame is related to the monarchy. And when you start to attack the one institution that brought all the love and affection of an entire nation. You'd have to wonder how that plays on Prince Harry because Australia embraced his mother when she came here and Charles when they came. We had our streets full of millions of adoring Australians. And even when Charles came very recently, the streets were full. And when they came today, nobody. They were even looking for crowds apparently, and their events were empty. They left early. So it's not a good sign for Harry that this is what's happened to his popularity in Australia when we're quite a loving, embracing country.
Well, I'll stick my neck out. I've looked at the body language and I have doubts that that will be a long-standing union, especially if and when the money runs out. But you're suggesting, Alexandra, that the couple, the Sussexes, dream of a return to the UK and a desire to be part of the royal family again.
Well, one of the Sussexes, let's put it that way. I think the other might prefer.
Now, wait a minute. This is a scoop. So you're saying Harry wants to come home and Meghan wants to stay in America?
That would be my personal opinion on the matter. I don't think she's keen to go back to the UK. I don't think she was even particularly keen to be over here in Australia. I thought we were like a backwater to the Netflix and the Hollywood fiasco. But, they came looking for branding and some attention and they didn't really get it. If the aim was to build publicity, it didn't work.
So that would be a point of tension in the relationship if Harry was pining for a UK return and Meghan says, well, I'm happy in America. And it's understandable, isn't it? Because Meghan's got more going on in her life than Harry does.
Sometimes I do feel a little sorry for Harry. I mean, he was a darling of the press. He did do a lot of genuine humanitarian work, particularly with the military, and that seems to have cooled off. And it's never good when, I still remember Princess Diana. I was very young when she died, and everyone had a lot of affection for her two children. So it's a bit sad to see the state of affairs now that her son comes to Australia and barely anybody notices. I wouldn't say that's positive. I am an ambassador for Australians for constitutional monarchy, so I do have a general love of the monarchy here. Yeah. And when Princess Anne came, there was far more love and affection for Princess Anne than this current royal tour.
Were Australians insulted by this trip, do you think?
It's so much worse than that, Mark. It's indifference. Wow. It is genuine, total indifference. You guys had more titles running in your press than we did over here. Most Australians do not know these two are in the country, even if they're in the same city. They probably don't even know they're in the same street. That is a total failure of the Sussex brand.
Wow, to be ignored is the ultimate kryptonite for Harry and Meghan.
Especially by Australians. We are quite embracing of people who come here and we went, sorry, who?
It's damning. Alexandra, so good to see you again. Please join us in the near future. Online editor at The Spectator Australia. A very clear message. Harry and Meghan went down under. No one noticed. Lots more to get through. Folks, it's been fantastic to chat. Please like and subscribe. That really helps me out. And hit the notification bell if you can support my journalism with a super thanks. I'm crazy grateful for that. I've still got to catch up on responding to the super thanks with a personal comment, which is going to be my homework, and I can't wait to get to that. Love you loads. You are awesome. See you for another big show tomorrow. Bye for now. The wind in our hair and the sun in our eyes. There's no need for tears and no time for lies. So reach out your hand and I'll reach out my heart. Remember me while we are apart. Goodbye doesn't mean this has to be the end. Fading dreams grow cold as ice. And I got a feeling we will meet again when we return to paradise again.